Ivory Coast now, where fighting between two political factions has increased this week, causing more people to flee their homes and exacerbating an economic crisis. Financial sanctions have been imposed on Ivory Coast to pressure former President Laurent Gbagbo to step down. While Gbagbo clings to power, the humanitarian situation is worsening. Mariama Diallo has more.
We're actually seeing a dramatic worsening of the situation.
Amnesty International's Scott Edwards is sounding the alarm after the most recent fighting in Ivory Coast has caused thousands more to flee the West African nation.
Over the past week, we've seen tens of thousands of people displaced. Internally, we've seen a huge uptick in refugees fleeing to Liberia, to Ghana as well. And unfortunately, we're also seeing a dramatic increase in armed conflict.
At the gates of Saint Ambroise Church in Abidjan, the country's commercial capital, volunteers gather to greet men, women and children who've been fleeing the violence. Ange Désiré Eliasson is the head of the parish.
At the moment, we actually have two types of people. Those who come and spend a day or two in the hope of continuing their journey, and those who stay 2 or 3 days.
Many delegations of African leaders have come and gone through Ivory Coast, trying to persuade incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo to step down after the United Nations certified he had lost last November's elections to rival Alassane Ouattara. But nothing has worked so far. Meanwhile, international and regional sanctions against Mr. Gbagbo are driving down the Ivorian economy. Ebouaka Suleiman, a beauty salon owner, says since the crisis began, it has been a real struggle.
Right now, we cannot even get half of what we were getting then. We are not working and there are no clients.
Suleiman's employees have also had to go for weeks without pay. Kwadjo Amo Desire is a beautician in the salon.
It's now 2 months that we have been working and have not been paid.
This week, long queues of government workers also lined up outside the few open banks in Abidjan, hoping to cash their latest paychecks. Some Ivorians, in fact, say they are just tired of the prolonged crisis. While ordinary Ivorians are obviously feeling the pinch, Todd Moss of the Center for Global Development says Mr. Gbagbo must be too.
He has a very large bill he has to pay every month to keep the army and security forces and the civil service on side, and that means he's going to need access to cash.
But when you are desperate, Moss says, you can still find ways to extract money.
So he still has his allies controlling the ports. He still may be able to squeeze companies that are not under the scrutiny of the West to be able to get some cash out. And he runs what's almost like a parallel illegal tax regime using roadblocks and other means to get cash out of the economy that then he can use to fund the security forces. And what I think is especially dangerous right now is when we've seen groups like the Young Patriots and some of the militias showing really brutal violence against civilians, and they're being paid through those resources.
Nevertheless, Moss says the financial sanctions are the right approach, despite their short-term effects on ordinary citizens. Eventually, he adds, the financial pressure will continue to isolate Mr. Gbagbo more and more. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.